All right, Thursday, September 10th. I'm meteorologist Brian McClure, broadcasting from Florida. Hot in Florida. Always hot. Just mowed the lawn again. Always mowing the lawn, too. Hot and sticky and always raining. Another round of thunderstorms out there this afternoon going into this evening. All right, we are statistically at the peak of the hurricane season. Does this surprise anybody? No, it shouldn't. If you've watched tropical weather for any amount of time over the years, you know that around mid-September, that's statistically and climatologically speaking, the peak of the season. We here in Florida really don't ever feel like we're out of the woods until sometime around mid to late October. Somewhere in that area is when we kind of go, okay, looks like it's probably trying to finally calm down. All right. I've been hearing a lot of comments and questions already coming into my inbox of, Brian, we're hearing from the hype people out there and from some other people on social media that all of a sudden the GFS is showing big hurricane coming from Florida like 14 to 15 days out. Okay, first thing I'll say is if you wonder why I don't put stuff like that on my page, it's because it doesn't really add to the science. Sometimes it's kind of cool to look at. Yeah, it can be fun for some people, especially people that have never been through big hurricanes and don't live in the area. But I found that it really doesn't advance science. It doesn't really advance education. It doesn't really help. However, that being said, the GFS has been the best this summer at predicting tropics, not the Euro. Okay? Secondly, if you've been watching me and my page for the past couple of weeks, you really shouldn't be surprised if something starts to materialize, especially towards the Caribbean, because I've been talking about this anyways. It all goes into the large scale pattern of what's going on. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. You have right out in here, Paulette, Renee, tropical wave. There is technically a little tropical wave right in here, not going to matter. And there was a tropical wave right in there, now over North Carolina. Okay, this one is going to move here. If it develops, it'll be slow to develop, and it'll develop past Florida and then just drift over towards Louisiana. Not a big deal. This is the one that I wasn't impressed with all along. Blah, blah, rain. Never did develop. This is Paulette. It's going to move like this. Bermuda will have to watch out for Paulette, but I don't think the U.S. will, and I'll explain why in just a second. Renee, it's just going to kind of follow along, and it'll just get kind of stuck out here in the middle of nowhere. It's this area down here that everybody's talking about, so I'll just cut right to the chase, and I'll talk about why the clickbait type people that want to, get tons and tons of clicks and tons of people and fans to their page, why they're showing this stuff, okay? I'm gonna show it to you. I'm not gonna hide it from you. Hey, I got nothing to hide. Okay, watch this feature right there. Okay, that's next Tuesday night. Okay, watch what it does. There's where it ends up. Now, what I want you to notice though is the time frame. We're talking September 22nd. All right, listen, I'm gonna be blunt with you. Anything past about 7 days, if a meteorologist tells you, or anybody tells you, I am highly confident, or my gut, be very cautious, okay? Anything past 7 days is almost like conjecture and just guesswork. Meteorologists never developed computer models to help us predict exactly where a hurricane would be 2 weeks from now. No. Instead, what we did was, it's supposed to be used as guidance, as kind of a heads up, we're seeing this type thing. And it really does. It's tons better now in like 4 and 5 days out than it ever has been. But for we're talking 7, 8, 9, 10, 14, 15, 16 days out, it was never intended really for that. Now, I will say this. What it was intended for long term was things like this map. This is what we call a heights map, geopotential height. All you really need to know is basically wind flow flows like this. Okay? That's all you need to know. I'm not going to go too deep. I'm not going to make a meteorology class about geopotential height. That's an in-depth meteorology class. But I will admit, computer models do a good job at giving us patterns long term for things like this. For example, you can see little dips, what we call in the jet stream flow. And you can also see ridges or high pressure areas and where they develop, okay? I will admit computer models have come a long ways over the years in helping us with what will the long-term patterns be across a continent, across an ocean, okay? So that being said, let me go back to this graphic. This is a moisture graphic. And I've been saying now for 2 weeks that I was more concerned with this area, okay? And the reason being is the pattern right now that I'm seeing setting up from now through October in North America, across the United States, is for these cold fronts to get pretty strong, and they're going to drop farther and farther into the southeast. We already saw record cold this week in the Midwest and the Plains states. Not a surprise. I talked about that last week also. What I want you to notice is here's a cold front right here by this weekend. Okay, that's in the northeast. Doesn't come too far south, but that does play a role in things because, for example, as it, notice, kind of comes out into the Atlantic, that is what's going to help to bring Paulette farther to the north. Then let's go farther out in advance or in time and look what happens again. By about next Monday, well, look at that. A little bit stronger cold front goes all the way to North Carolina. So that's the one that's going to ultimately pick up Paulette and take it off to the northeast. See, there it goes. See, right in there. There's your front, and there goes Paulette. Okay? That being said, let me go further out in time, all the way out like a week to 8 days from now. And you'll notice that there's some cool air right in here. And then coming along across the country, voila, here comes another cold front. So, if you go back and you watch my Facebook videos or YouTube videos, I have them on YouTube also, from a week, 2 weeks ago, I've been talking about how I'm more worried about if something gets down in here or something gets pulled up through this area, because in this type of pattern, this is the pattern where as cold fronts dig through the southeastern United States or the mid-Atlantic, you can get tropical storms, or at the very least, tropical moisture to pull northward. All right. Therefore, sorry it took a while to get to that, but I had to kind of give you some background. Now we can talk about why this matters. Okay, so let's go ahead, and again, I'll bring it back up, even though I think it's just eye candy at this point. I don't think it's almost silly. There's no need to take this too serious, but let me just show you again what's happening here is we'll go all the way out about 8, 9, 10 days from now, and you see this feature right in here. What I'm saying here is, do I like hype? Heck no. You know I don't. I'm not a hype person. I don't like hype. I don't like national media hype. I don't like fake stories. I don't like falsehoods. I don't like exaggerating things that don't need to be. But if you do get a tropical wave or tropical storm coming into the Caribbean, it almost certainly is going to be a threat to the southeastern United States a week out, 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out, because of the large-scale patterns across the country. It's going to try and turn somewhere. Now, it could be offshore. It could do like this. It could be Florida. It could be Georgia. It could be Alabama. It could be Mississippi, Louisiana. It could be the Carolinas. The main point to take from this is, yes, there could be a threat down the road, but this shouldn't really surprise anybody either. I mean, it is September after all. What we call the main developmental region, the MDR, is right here, from the coast of Africa through the central Atlantic. I'll give you a little hint, if you see something cross the latitude of 20 degrees north before it gets to this longitude right there, so like Paulette, there it is, and Renee's going to cross it right there. If you see that, I wouldn't be too stressed about it this season. And here's why. These cold fronts coming off the coast of Africa, or coming off the coast of the United States, they're so strong this year that when these storms, even if they come all the way like this, they're likely going to get kicked back to the northeast. All the way like this, they're probably going to get kicked northeast. Now, I'm not guaranteeing that. I'm not saying you can't have a Hugo incidence or something. Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the chances of something making a run north of 20 north and coming straight at the US like this is going to be very minimal because we have so many cold fronts. The long-term pattern at least is showing that coming across the US. All right, that being said, this is why it is important to watch these features down in here, because south of 20 degrees north longitude, if it stays down in this area, then yes, it could make it into my box that I've talked about. This is the box I'm watching. I'll be honest with you. This doesn't seem to be a big deal to me out here. It's this area in the Caribbean, okay? So now let's talk about the other complicated part and another reason why I don't like to make a big deal about things past 7 days. The main developmental region and the Cabo Verde area in Africa, tons and tons and tons of waves come off the coast all the time, okay? Let me loop this forward and let me show you. Do you see right there near the Cabo Verde Islands, Cape Verde, whatever you want to call it, right near the coast of Africa? Watch it. I'm going to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You see it right there? You see that feature? Okay, that is a tropical wave right now. Now, I'll circle it. There it is. There's another one back in here. This is very normal. They come off the coast of Africa all the time. Let me move forward in time, and what I want you to notice is right there. Do you see that little purple area that comes flying off the coast of Africa? You see it right there. See it? I'm going back and forth. See it? Boom, 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 boom. See right in there. Okay? This little feature, it's so dinky, it's so tiny, it doesn't look like a big deal. That appears to be a wave slash outflow gust of moisture that comes flying off the coast of Africa. You know the old joke like, hey, a butterfly lands on an elephant in Africa and then all of a sudden there's a hurricane in the US, you know, you got a joke like that. Believe it or not, I know it's a joke, but believe it or not, little things that happen in Africa can be big things down the road 10, 13, 14 days out. I bring all this up because extrapolation on computer models is historically and notoriously horrible. Horrible, folks. Okay? So that's why you won't see me showing clickbait on my page. Now, will I bring it up? Of course I will. Will I talk about it? Absolutely. Again, I'm not afraid to bring it up. I don't care. That's fine. It can be science. It's not that the model's lying, but what it's saying is that little feature, again, I'll show it to you right there. See right there? It is the instigator to get this wave finally turning. And if it gets turning, then it becomes a tropical storm somewhere in here and moves west. I will say this. If that process happens faster, like in here, that storm almost certainly will gain latitude, go north of my magical 20-degree north line, and will never be a big deal. If it happens slower, watch. It's kind of like sluggish. See how it's sluggish, 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 and then, okay, whoa, wait a second, finally, we're talking like all the way Sunday or Monday, finally. See that? Something finally starts to happen, right? It appears to finally be symmetrical and turning. But notice, that takes a while. If it's slow to occur like that, and it's way down here, southern latitudes, then it can make it into the Caribbean. Then yes, then we have to watch it because it makes it into my box that I'm talking about. And in this area, you don't want a hurricane this season. You don't want a hurricane this year because of the patterns across the US. All that being said, I don't stress about things this far out because all these little things going on back here, you see there's this, there's Renee, there's Paulette, and there's probably even another wave right in here. The computer models don't do a good job of details, of being really detail oriented with features back in that area. Do they do a good job with generalities, generalizations? Yeah, they do actually. We kind of know when waves are coming off and we kind of know, but I'll be honest with you, the past 2 weeks, oh my goodness, there have been so much hype about here's the next wave and it's going to be the big one. And then it just flutters out. Okay, here's the next wave and it's going to be the big one. And then it just kind of becomes Renee and everybody goes, okay, so my point is, yes, I do think the next 2 waves probably will develop. Will they be a big threat to land? Who knows? Who knows? Way, 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 way too early for that. So there you go. I think I talked on one graphic for 13 to 14 minutes. Sorry, I didn't show a bunch of fancy graphics. I didn't have a whole lot to show today, but that's because, in all honesty, really the big headline is not even on the map yet. I mean, it's just not even happening yet. It's stuff that's way back here in Africa, and that stuff back in there is what will ultimately determine is it south of the 20th latitude, and then ultimately does it make it into the Caribbean. You see what I'm saying? It's like this domino has to fall for that domino to fall for that domino to fall, and then if all that happens, then yeah, the GFS could end up being right, and all of a sudden you got a hurricane coming through the Caribbean that is probably going to turn north at some point. Just for fun, let me show you why I'm not a fan, and this will give you an idea of why it's kind of silly sometimes to get too detail oriented on these models. Okay, this is what we call the most recent run, the 12Z, and let me show you at a whole, what is this, 2.5 weeks out, there's where the placement is, okay, in the Gulf west of Tampa Bay. Okay, let me go back a model run, and let me show you what the last run did. It showed it, southern Florida, Keys to Miami. Let me go back a model run, 2 models runs ago, and let me show you what this one did. Showed it almost like smack dab into Tampa Bay, kind of way southwest Florida, and then whoop, turning back to the northeast, right? Okay, let me go 3 model runs back. Let me show you what this one did. East of Florida, probably missing Florida, maybe scraping the eastern side, or maybe the east coast of the US. Do you see my point? They're all so different. So the general idea of, do we have to watch something that gets into the Caribbean? Yes, I've been talking about that for the past couple of weeks. But do we have to get specific on, ooh, this could be Florida, this could be the Carolinas, this could be Louisiana? Too early, way too early. All right, short term. Hey, we talked about how, let me zoom into this area. Okay, so let me show you what we're talking about. Here's Florida, okay? There it is. What we're going to talk about is the tropical wave off to our east. I've been talking a lot about this on TV the past few nights. There is a tropical wave right out in here. I talked about how a little lobe of it would drift into North Carolina. It wouldn't be a big deal, just bring rain. Boom, did that today. I also talked about how there's a little southern lobe of it, and it might try to spin as it comes past Florida, but even if it does, it's not going to develop until it gets to this area at the earliest. That would be Sunday going into Monday. Let me show you what the guidance is showing right now. Watch that blob off to the east of Florida. Watch it come through. Okay, and then nothing. Okay, well that's interesting. Let me go to the latest run. Let me show you what happens. Okay, here comes that blob. Here comes the blob. Interesting. See right in here? See that feature? Okay, let's go further out. This is Sunday. And then right there, going Sunday into Monday. Look at that. It tries to spin. Okay, so my point is, you go 2, 3, 4 model runs back, wasn't really showing it, but I was talking about it on air. Now all of a sudden, the models are catching up to the humans. My point to this is, model guidance is supposed to be guidance. It's supposed to guide me and help me, but I'm a human with 20 years experience, and I can tell you right now, I've been watching the tropical wave for the past 3 days, and I wouldn't be surprised if that wave ultimately ends up forming into a weak tropical storm. Probably not a huge deal, but still, that's the type of thing that nobody's even talking about, and yet I was talking about it, and it's probably going to drift like that. Okay, so these little subtle things in the atmosphere, you have to have tons of tropical experience, you have to know what you're doing, and you have to also take some of that stuff out in Africa with a grain of salt and just wait for it to develop or wait for it to see, what happens. In the long run, I think what you're going to see is that little feature going over towards Louisiana, Alabama. There's Paulette. It's going to ultimately possibly be a threat to Bermuda, maybe go just to the west of it, but there it is out there. So you've got this going there, you've got Paulette out there. And again, I'm going to reiterate one last time before I let you go, that area in the Caribbean is where I would be watching. Okay? I wouldn't worry too much about anything out in the Atlantic at this point. I'd worry about, can something get into the Caribbean? If it gets there, okay, then we need to start having serious talks. All right, so that's it for today. Have a great Thursday. I will be back to talk more, and of course, I'll continue putting more updates on my Facebook page. Have a great day.